Yeah, so in Secret Engine of the World, I posited 3 deadlines for us. The first 2 are the 2022 and 2024 US federal elections. We're not going to discuss those, of course, in this context, the Theosophical Society, but we will discuss the 3rd deadline, which is a planetary deadline, which was the Secret Engine was published in 2021. So I said 10 years out, so 2031. And now it's 9 years out. Because, well, when we started, we said we have 40 years to make a difference. We have 30 years to make a difference. We have 20 years to make a difference. Now we have 9. There are, where, it's a dire situation. That's the people of Mississippi, the town that was just destroyed. But there are also very significant steps forward. We're not going to go into any of that. But the point, the reason I bring it up is because this is the second in the series of talks that address that 3rd deadline. The first of them was in November 2022, last November. I was honored to be on the program for the Empower Dance Project's year-long, the closing reception for Empower Dance Project's year-long exhibition, Mother Peace, Mother War. And I was asked to speak briefly on the planetary emergency, climate crisis, 6th grade extinction. So I did, and I had decided that I would talk on Gaian politics and Gaian poetics. And these are terms that I had coined for myself as I wrote, Words of Power, I the Dragon, and Secret Engine of the World, developing these, the sense of what Gaian poetics means, the sense of what Gaian politics means to me personally, and sharing them. So I said, oh, this is what I'm going to talk about. And then as I was preparing for that talk, I was thinking about the arc of civilization, the arc of this last 2,000 years, this particular civilization. And it struck me as something I hadn't realized before, because at the beginning of that arc, Aristotle wrote Politics and Poetics. They're kind of like among other bookends, they're like kind of bookends, framing this arc of Western civilization for all its good and all its folly and all its genius and all its bad. So I thought, what's this in the symmetry? It's an interesting symmetry, because we do indeed need to restart, reboot, revision civilization. And that's what we're in the process of, because we need to survive. We need a green civilization. We need a feminist civilization. And we need a civilization predicated on altruism, Gaian politics. So that's the talk I gave, and it gave me clarity to see, well, I'm kind of like supplanting Aristotle's Poetics and Politics with a vision appropriate to our moment. So somewhere along the same time, I had this intuition to talk about the Emerald Tablet, and it struck me as kind of odd, because I have great respect for the alchemical traditions, but it's not really my cup of tea. But I had to give a talk on the Emerald Tablet, which was great because I would dive into it. But I put it off for about a year, and then I decided to do it now, and I really did not know why I was giving this talk on the Emerald Tablet until I started diving deeper. And I remembered my experience with Aristotle for the talk before it, and I realized, oh, it's the second in the series. And of course, this fits in because I'm about to revision Emerald Tablet. So that's some background for this. And that talk, I have transcribed that talk. We have a video of that talk from November 2022, and I'll post this talk and that talk together because it's not sequential, but they're kind of companion pieces. So that's where we're on there. There'll be at least one more. I don't know. I don't know what it'll be framed around, but just briefly, I want to show you. This is in Manly Palmer Hall's amazing book. This is a very rare edition of it. That's one version, one rendition of the Emerald Tablet. Manly Palmer Hall's Secret Teachings of the World. If you come to an expanded library hour, you can gaze at it. This talk has 4 parts. Part 1, the legend. Part 2, the legend. Part 2, the one. Part 3, the sun and the moon. Part 4, the philosopher's stone. So the legend. Hermes Trismegistus. Just for safety's convenience sake, I'm going to say from now on out, I'm going to say Hermes thrice blessed. The golden tablet, the emerald tablet, is attributed to him, Hermes thrice great, also known as Thoth, Egyptian Thoth, demigod. What is a demigod? A being with partial or lesser divine status, such as a minor deity, the offspring of a god, an immortal, or immortal raised to divine rank. According to Britannica, Thoth, in the Egyptian religion, a god of the moon, a god of learning and writing, a god of reckoning. First appearances of Emerald Tablet in form as a deliverable was in Arabic in the 8th and 9th centuries. And then by the 12th and 13th centuries, it was translated into Latin. The earliest known version of the Emerald Tablet was Apollonius of Tyana. And I'm not going to mangle the Arabic, but the translation of the title of the book that it was included in was The Secret of Creation and the Art of Nature. Apollonius was a contemporary of Jesus and Buddha. He too performed miracles. Apollonius was a Neo-Pythagorean, just as Plotinus was a Neoplatonist. Unlike Jesus and Buddha, who chose to move among the poor and the downtrodden, Apollonius chose to move among the upper classes, which he was from. Nevertheless, according to H.P. Blavatsky, in the 3rd volume of The Secret Doctrine, this is the 5th volume because it's the Adyar edition, which is in 6 volumes, but it's my favorite part of The Secret Doctrine. According to Blavatsky, the 3 miracle workers exhibited striking similarity of purpose. There's a quote about Apollonius from Blavatsky. His existence is surrounded with such a veil of mystery that he is often mistaken for a myth. It is quite true that this sage who stands unrivaled in his thaumaturgical powers of this day, on evidence historically attested, came from it. No one seems to know whither. but the reasons for this are evident. Every means was used, especially during the 4th and 5th centuries of our era, to sweep from people's minds the remembrance of this great and holy man. Blavatsky, volume 55. According to Apollonius, here we go. He discovered a vault hidden but below a statue of Hermes. Inside the vault, he found an old corpse on a golden throne. The corpse held the emerald tablet in its hand. Much has been projected on the emerald tablet over the centuries. Medieval alchemists looked to it for the secrets of the philosopher's stone. Modern mystics and occultists have woven their worldviews around the tablet's signature declaration, as above, so below. Manly Palmer Hall himself says that it is first and foremost and fundamentally an alchemical formula relating both to the alchemy of the base metal and the divine alchemy of human regeneration. They wanted to make gold and live forever. Yeah, well, the emerald tablet is only 14 lines long. Only 14 lines in the emerald tablet. In preparation for this talk, I compared and contrasted numerous versions, including renditions from Sir Isaac Newton, H.P. Blavatsky, and the Sufi author Idris Shah. The one I'm going to use tonight is from an early 20th century French alchemist, Fulcanelli, who's the author of a wonderful book called The Mystery of the Cathedrals, which you may know. Part 2, the one. Oh, wow, a surprise for you. Let me see if this works. If it does, it's going to be very cool. I hope you're seeing this. If you are, this is Salvador Dali's painting of the Emerald Tablet from 1968. And then on this next slide is where we're going in this part 2, the one. This is Oberon Zell's Millennium Gaia statue. I'm sure many of you have seen. Very powerful image in the last decade of the 20th century. I think it was 1998. Okay, now I'm going to pop out of here. And I should be back on your screens. The one. Above and below. As above, so below. Above and below are so limited, so limiting, even though this phrasing is healthier than that of the religionists who exalt heaven and debase the so-called mundane world. This phrasing still warps and denigrates the meaning of the teaching it is meant to convey. This powerful truth is not about heaven and earth. They are not two. They are not separate. It's not gods and angels above and humans and animals below. Even though it says as above, so below, it's still a separation that only exists in the human mind. You are not a soul temporarily in a body. You are not here now and going there after. It's so much more marvelous than that. So much more, so much simpler and so much more complex at the same time than that. It's not as above. It is. Is above, is below would really work better. The phrasing is the old patriarchal paradigm repeated over and over. And no, the sky is not masculine just because the earth is feminine. It's a false correspondence. We're going to be talking a little bit about false correspondences, and if you'll see in Secret Engine of the World, I speak about the table of erroneous correspondences being one of the major STDs, I call them, spiritually transmitted diseases. And this, well, I'll get ahead of myself. So it's a false correspondence. In my rendering of the Emerald Tablet, I supplant as above, so below with the macrocosm is within the macrocosm, and the macrocosm is within the microcosm. The next lines in this particular translation are pretty good. So I didn't strike them through. You'll see on the slides, I strike through the phrases that I'm supplanting. So this phrase stands: all things exist in and emanate from the one who is the ultimate cause. ... So all things are born after their own kind, in other words, their own individuality from this one. They are both an indistinguishable part of the oneness and also profoundly unique individual. Everything and everyone. Yes, indeed. Now, who is this one who is the ultimate cause? Gaia is the macrocosm. This planet itself, Gaia, the living planet, Gaia. This is something that we didn't have before the late 20th and early 21st century. Scientific theory, the scientific discovery of Gaia as being a living, full entity, intelligence, on and everything on this planet being a part of it. We'll go into that further. So now who is this one? I is the macrocosm. I am, you are the microcosm. The ecosystem of this planet, which is itself the intelligence of this planet, is the macrocosm. My 5 bodies are the microcosm. Simultaneously, Gaia is the microcosm, and the solar system is the macrocosm. And the solar system is the microcosm, and the Milky Way is macrocosm, and on and on and on and on. Probably until we get back to Gaia and our own 5 bodies. So I'm going to read you something, give some context to what I'm talking about. Gaia as intelligence and the planet as being alive, a being, which is something, by the way, in philosophical traditions, Joe would break it out every once in a while about the planets and the stars, but we're not going to go there tonight. I discussed it a little bit in the last talk. This is from Plant Intelligence in the Imaginal Realm. which is one of my absolutely favorite texts of all time, but dominant over the past decade or so, since a friend of mine who's a gardener turned me onto it. Stephen Harrod. I'm just going to read you some snippets here. Luca, L-U-C-A, Luca. For the entire history of life on this planet, 85% of that history is in fact, 85% of that history, in fact, life consisted solely of microorganisms. The last universal common ancestor, Luca, the last universal common ancestor for every life form on this planet was bacterial. Again, the last universal common ancestor for every life form on this planet was bacterial. The Gaian ecosystem, the self-organized system that we know as Earth, came into being with the emergence of the global bacterial community. That bacterial community still is the foundation of this world. It is Gaia. It is the interconnected network of millions of bacterial biofilms, individual bacteria, and symbiogenic bacterially generated complex life forms that lies deep within the crust of the Earth, perhaps by as much as 5 kilometers, covers the entire surface of the planet, and extends at least 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface. The Earth itself is around 4.5 billion years old, but sometime in its first half to 1 billion years of existence, bacterial life emerged. The earliest echo ranges on the planet, and I just want to read one last piece here for you. Marvelous work. The original neural networks that are present in all bacteria and their communities have been expanded in both form, both shape and extent over long timelines. Although the living self-organized systems that we know of as life forms contain neural networks based on the original bacterial network that emerged. And the neurochemicals that bacteria originally developed have been refined over long timelines and are now used by virtually every life form that exists. Our neural network is only a modification of an already existent, extant neural reality that pervades the entire Earth ecosystem. It is only a specific instance of a general condition. And then that's just this last part. The expansion of the neural net in multiple forms, all interconnected, facilitates the intake and processing of environmental information at ever more sophisticated levels for the Gaian network as a whole. Each self-organized system, that is, each subset of the larger whole, possesses the drive to fulfill its ecological function within the whole. And each possesses a sophisticated neural network with which it gathers data about the local environment in which it exists. Each also possesses free will as to how it accomplishes its function and how it responds to environmental perturbations. Gaia does not use top-down control over the parts that make up the whole. This is a glimpse into the vastness of what we mean by Gaia being a living being and intelligence, arguably divine intelligence. So, the one. Part 3, the sun and the moon. Let me use this feature again. Yeah, this out of the way. The sun and the moon. You see, I strike through on the lines of the lines among 14 lines of the Emerald Tablet. I strike through on the ones that I'm framing, rephrasing, supplanting. I've done this once before in Secret Engine. You'll see I struck through a comment, Vivekananda's definition of Viraja, which I found unacceptable. Okay, let's get back here because it's clunky. We have to go back and forth. But there we go. Okay. The sun and the moon. Languaging is so important, so pivotal. Languaging impacts the stream of consciousness. If it's off, if it's unhealthy, it can warp a truth, warp reality. It can flatten it out, make it brittle and thin, make it square, drain it of its Shakti. Esoteric, metaphysical, mystical, spiritual languaging concerning the sun and the moon offers vivid examples of such abuse. In all of the table of erroneous correspondences, nothing is as egregious as the characterization of the sun and the moon. The sun active, the moon receptive, male and female, yin and yang by extension, Wrong, wrong, wrong. To anthropomorphize the sun and the moon into father and mother. Yeah, I should have started with what I struck through. The sun is the father and the moon is the mother. That's what it says. The sun is the father and the moon is the mother. Now they use sun for fire, moon for water, wind for air, and earth. And they only speak of 4 elements, which is always disturbing to me. Whenever I don't see 5 elements right away, I'm asking what's happening here, because none of it makes any sense without Akasha. But anyway, the sun is the father and the moon is the mother. Wrong, 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 wrong. To anthropomorphize the sun and the moon into father and mother is patriarchal, sexist, samsaric, trivializing and misleading. Consider the sun. We see what I mean by table of correspondences, erroneous correspondences. You look up 1,000 times in 1,000 books, in 100 generations, and every time you look at a book, there's a table, and every time you see the sun, it says male, active, and every time you see the moon, it says female, receptive. Some among us do not realize that you are reinforcing something very unnatural and very oppressive, very asserting of one gender over another and mischaracterizing the nature of both. So consider the sun. The sun is the father. Consider the sun. 26,000 light years from the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. The sun holds the planets of the solar system in its grip, in its thrall, pulling them with it as it circumambulates that galactic core. At an average speed of 450,000 miles an hour. Each circumambulation takes 230 million years. All the while, the sun is delivering the heat and light that make life on Earth possible. Photosynthesis, the process by which green plants and some other organisms use sunlight to synthesize foods from carbon dioxide and water. Photosynthesis in plants generally involves the green pigment chlorophyll and generates oxygen as a byproduct. It would be impossible to overstate the importance of photosynthesis in the maintenance of life on Earth. If photosynthesis ceased, there would soon be little food or other organic matter on Earth. Most organisms would disappear, and in time, Earth's atmosphere would become nearly devoid of gaseous oxygen. Many of us spend too much time indoors. Ayurveda will tell you all this. Sunlight may reduce high blood pressure. Sunlight can regulate the immune system. Sunlight strengthens your bones. Sunlight improves the quality of sleep. Sunlight boosts mood. Nothing is more important to us on the earth, nothing more important to the earth than the sun. Without the sun's heat and light, the earth would be a lifeless ball of ice-coated rock. And as for the moon, well, first of all, our moon, the radius of our moon is larger, much larger, is larger than a quarter of the Earth's radius. And it's a much larger ratio than most moons to their planet. So our moon is a big deal and interacts with us arguably more than most other moons, certainly in the solar system. The brightest and largest object in the night sky, yes. It makes Earth a more livable planet by moderating our home planet's wobble on its axis. If it were not for the moon's gravity, we would wobble as the sun took us on that 230 million year circumambulation of the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. And that preventing that wobble or limiting that wobble allows for the climate. Basically, the equilibrium of climate on a planetary level, which of course we are now in the process of screwing up through our genes and ignorance. The moon directs the tides. We live on an ocean planet. The moon controls the tides, which makes the oceans oceans, keep them alive. Earth's moon is vitally important in making Earth the planet we know today. It controls the length of the day. If it weren't for the moon, our day would be 6 hours long. It would change everything. Every species, everything would be different if our day was 6 hours long. Father and mother. Putting the gender stereotypes aside, even if it were a metaphor predicated on healthy parenting, your parents bring you into the world and then you grow up and you live your life, you individuate. Maybe at the end of theirs, you help them out of this life just as they helped you in. You have a relationship with them. But the sun and the moon, they did not just give birth to this world and these mysteries. They are at the center of them moment by moment, sustaining it all, organizing it all at every level, now and ever since. For as long as they endure, they are central to it all and allow for the rise of Gaia intelligence. They empower Gaia to paint her masterpieces upon the canvas of her own luminous flesh. So my rendering of the Emerald Tablet, in my rendering of emerald tablet. I supplant the sun as the moon. The sun is the father and the moon is the mother within the cauldron of the creatrix. The yin and the yang swirl ceaselessly. Likewise, the yin within the yang and the yang within the yin swirls ceaselessly. Feel all of this. The true alchemy of this living planet owes a lot to the Taoists. Every whole thing, from a tree to the person to a business, an atom, a plant, or a universe, can be seen as a metaphorical Tai Chi with corresponding yin and yang. That's from Simone Kuhl. Yin and yang are one vital force, the primordial aura. Yang Ming Wang, one last quote here. The motion of yin and yang generates all things in nature. Part 4, the Philosopher's Stone. So now we'll go back here. Do this one more time. Okay. Stop out of the way. So kind of clunky. Okay. Yeah. Philosopher's Stone. This image is Hildegard von Bingen's Cycles of Life. She was not only a prophetess, a scientist, a poet. She was an incredible composer, musical composer, and an incredible painter. Hildegard of Bingen, all while keeping herself alive within the Christian church of the Middle Ages. So let's dive into this Philosopher's Stone and why am I invoking Hildegard. So alchemists believe, is a quote from this wonderful book by Dennis William Houck. It's it's good. And it's not true either. The alchemists believe that the universal formula contained in the Emerald Tablet was the basis for a spiritual technology first introduced on the planet in ancient Egypt more than 10,000 years ago. The formula consists of 7 consecutive operations performed on the matter, whether it be physical, psychological, or spiritual in nature. Quote. I looked up Philosopher's Stone. In this wonderful book, Mary von Hall's. A huge, wonderful index, huge, extensive index. Many listings for the Philosopher's Stone, but two in particular stood out, and I had to laugh. One entry read, quote, Philosopher's Stone contains all the power of nature. And then it's page number. Well, you know what else? Quote, contains all the powers of nature, unquote. Nature. Gaia, nature herself. Gaia. And the other, it's just me looking in the index. And the other entry read, quote, Philosopher's Stone represented by Isis, Roman numerals for a page number. Well, yes. But it's not really symbolism. It would be more accurate to say Isis is the philosopher's stone, and the philosopher's stone is Isis. Isis, of course, being one of Gaia's many divine disguises. Please do not misunderstand me. Secret Teachings of All the Ages, marvelous tome, rich resource, but the minds of men from earlier centuries, even the 20th, but especially the 19th, are utterly at a loss when it comes to the deep feminine mysteries of this planet. I find myself wanting to declare this is the true alchemy of our living planet, because, well, it is. But I need to add a caveat. I am not saying this is the only true alchemy. There is the true alchemy of Carl Jung and his path of individuation, Jung's encounter with the Emerald Tablet in particular, and his inquiry into alchemy as a whole. It would be a talk unto itself and a very meaningful one. And you'll find many resources for that many resources for that. There's also the true alchemy of the novelist Paulo Coelho. In The Alchemist, he writes, quote, "Intuition is really a sudden immersion of the soul into the universal current of life." The history of alchemy is vast, sprawling. There is Chinese alchemy. There is Indian alchemy. There is a whole alternate suppressed herstory of alchemy. Mary the Jewess is considered the first known alchemist, not the first known female alchemist, the first known alchemist, Mary the Jewess, 200 CE. And of course, here in this lodge, we honor the life and work of the legendary African-American alchemist, Light Devoy Edwin Harris, who left this plane of existence in December of 2014. Our dear friend and ally. Light, light, SOUND, sound, light and sound, sound and light, light and sound, sound and light, 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 SOUND, sound. Yes, there are many true alchemies. This talk is just a reflection on my encounter with the Emerald Tablet. It is what I feel to speak. So, sure. Yeah, well, I want to speak through these 5 bodies and with my voice in my words, calibrated to our present circumstances. We are in the throes of this planetary emergency, anthropogenic climate disruption, ACD, and the 6th great extinction pose an existential threat to civilization itself, and only through the ascendancy of the feminine. In politics, science, commerce, philosophy, psychology, mysticism, the ascendancy of the feminine and the spread of ecofeminism. Are we going to make this reboot, this revisioning? The arc of human evolution is leading us beyond patriarchy. This, I say, this is the true alchemy of our planet. So I suggest to you that the great Hildegard of Bingen knew more, 1098 to 1179, knew more than the men who came before her, knew more than the men of her time, and more than the men who came after her. She sang this. Oh, of Viriditas, she spoke and wrote, taught about Viriditas, the green flame that is pouring through, making all life possible. She called it Viriditas, the green flame. Oh, most honored greening force, she says. You who roots in the sun, you who lights up in shining serenity within a wheel that earthly excellence fails to comprehend. You are enfolded in the weaving of divine mysteries. You redden like the dawn and you burn, flame of the sun. Hildegard Bingen, Viriditas. I suggest to you, this is simple and more immediate. Engine to run your alchemy. In my rendition of the Emerald Tablet, I swap out the cryptic lines about alchemical operations involving 4 of the 5 elements. So for instance, the wind carries it in his belly. Earth is its nurse and its guardian, straight through. And I supplant it all with this. The green flame is the emerald tablet in ceaseless motion. The emerald tablet is the green flame in utter stillness. They occupy the same space. Within that space, every incarnation is lived and all karmas are played out. The green flame forges the emerald tablet. The emerald tablet fuels the green flame. Immerse yourself in this mystery and realize that you are a mystery within a mystery and a miracle within a miracle. Within nirvana, Gaia is the philosopher's stone. Within samsara, the individuated being, the woke being, the being that has, as Joe would say, fallen awake. That person is themselves the philosopher's stone. And yes, nirvana and samsara occupy the same space. So that's where it all is, what it all is. Utterly incomprehensible, utterly unspeakable. And yet, we can know it and speak it. Worlds without end. Thank you for your patience. With our restart in the beginning, I hope we made it through. And I will close. That was a song of Lights that we used to sing when he would be with us. And this is a song of Joe and Gwen's, which is very important to this lodge of the Theosophists. Only through the orchid door of the heart and the violet flame therein can you place your feet on the rainbow bridge that leads to the city of the golden gate and the shrine of clear light therein. Om Ahom Bendigo Bendigo. Om Ahom Bendigo Bendigo. Om Ahom Bendigo Bendigo.